you have something that's really huge for D&D Beyond. There's a lot more content coming to subscribers of D&D Beyond. Like, what is that content? What frequency are we going to, get? What is this new kind of initiative called?
Yeah, this is called D&D Beyond Drops. The idea is that we're actually going to be giving away new content every week with sort of more substantial drops coming every month. So the things you'll see every week are things like encounters, kind of little storytelling nuggets, things that a DM can readily use at their table. And every month, we're giving stuff for everyone. So things like player options, new maps, more storytelling stuff, monsters, stuff like that is coming monthly.
Oh, but why did you decide to go about this now? Like, what was, because it feels like there's a lot more things are changing at D&D Beyond. Certainly, you just had like an overhaul to the website.
Hmm.
How did this all kind of come about?
Yeah, I'll give a bit of the origin story because this is a thing it's been a thing that many of us, Todd included, have wanted to bring to D&D Beyond,
Yeah.
which is we
For
want
those that don't
to.
know, I also worked on this, though I am not currently at Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, like, we've always wanted to give content that really helps your weekly play. The the start and end of this whole thing is what can we do from a content standpoint that just helps make your prep easier, make it more interesting, more fun. The hard part has been how do we actually logistically do this thing? Because we know how to make books pretty well. Those things take years to make. We want to be very responsive to players' needs. And there's been a lot of talk about how do we get to that point where we can be much more responsive to players are telling us they want these things. Let's really start to move in that direction of the things they want. And so that's what took the longest time. A lot of coordination between the TTRPG studio, our team, and Jay is the one who kind of came up with the best approach alongside like many people who helped along the way. Greg Bilsland, Vanessa Hoskins, like many other stars have figured out the logistics of high quality content that we can give to you on a monthly and weekly basis.
Yeah, this is a very weird thing to do an interview about. Having also worked on this particular thing, and this is something that we've been like honestly working towards in some degree ever since we launched D&D Beyond was content like this and just trying to figure out the format for it and also frankly have the resources and the infrastructure to make that work was a lot more than people probably would realize. But like that was always the dream, right? To like, for those that remember Dragon Magazine and content like that, being able to be a little, far more adaptive and have a little bit more fun and do things maybe even that are quirky or a little bit more reactionary or, test stuff where you don't have to wait 3 years to have something published. Doesn't mean that like this isn't like being tested thoroughly, mechanically and things like that, but like a lot of people do not understand. And this is probably something that you both are running into to a certain degree is how long it takes to publish a book is like at least 3 years, let
Hmm.
alone sending things to the pressers, getting the PDF, it all sorted out. So people don't realize like so much more content can also come out after a book has been released, and it's in the in the digital age. It is wild to not be able to be a little bit more adaptive towards the needs of like I think people who are on D&D Beyond. I think I just answered your own question for you, but like, what were some of the biggest challenges in like putting this all together finally?
I'll talk from the logistics side of things, and then Jay can talk about the actual like brass tacks. Here's what we're releasing today, and here's how we got to that point. Yeah, from the logistics standpoint, quality was important to us. Listening to what players wanted was really important to us. We had producers basically figure out how do we get from idea to output in weeks rather than years. There's been a lot of effort on just the ways that we do art, the ways that we work with freelancers, the ways that we edit that have all continued to improve and get a lot more flexible. And a lot of people don't think about the importance of logistics, but that is like a key piece of when you're making things that you want at a quality level that people expect. Kind of the schedule is the goal of getting to that good schedule. And then, pass it over to Jay to talk about how we got to the things that players find in their hands today.
Yeah, today, like this Thursday. Yeah. And it's a lot of stuff. It's a big drop.
Boy, we knew when we were going to roll this out that we had to make a splash, right? We wanted to give players like a lot of stuff, and when I say players, DMs also play, of course, right? But we wanted to make sure that like everyone got a lot of cool stuff to play with, and like Brian said, a lot of that was logistics, right? Like, okay, how do we exactly like source these 125 maps, right? How do we make sure that we give it to users in a way that like, doesn't make it feel like you're looking for a needle in a haystack, right? And so like a lot of this was like, okay, let's be really purposeful with what we're giving to people, right? Like when it comes to DMs, of course, maps are pretty much always going to be a benefit to your table. And on top of that, so is like really cool art from the books, right? Some like I've struggled time and time again to explain to players like, oh, you see this really snow-ish house, right? And it's like, I spent a couple minutes trying to feebishly explain it, but because we're also including 250 reveals, you can literally just look into the browser and be like, okay, here's a picture of a snowy house, right? And you instantly show that to your players, and then cool, you're off to the races. And so, obviously, of course, that's on the art side, right? And that has its own sort of logistics, its own timelines and everything. And then we get into the player stuff, right? So this month we're dropping spells, feats, and a background. And so one of the things when I was kind of working with the TTRPG studio is like, okay, how can we make this feel special, right? How do we make this not feel like, oh, maybe it was just sort of left on the cutting room floor of a book, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think one of the approaches we took was like, well, okay, D&D has a 50-plus year old history, right?
Yeah, lots of mine.
Exactly, right? There's
fourth
so
edition
much
alone
cool
with
stuff.
all the maps. You can say what you will about like 4th edition D&D. It had some banger maps in there, and then color maps.
Yeah, some
of
the maps are gorgeous, like super evocative. Like there's one of like a volcano with like almost like this rift going down the middle. Super super cool stuff. But then like, especially with the player options, right? Like we could probably publish dozens of, not like hundreds of books, and still not capture the sheer numbers that the older editions had. And so we were like, okay, let's look for some really cool stuff from older editions, right? One of my favorites is a spell from 2nd edition called Leomin's Lamentable Belaborment, which is essentially you just force monsters to argue with each other, and they are just completely ignorant to the world around them as they just focus in on arguing with each other, right? And it's like it's that kind of stuff where we could be like, yeah, this is a little silly, but it also does have its place in the game and like can be pretty helpful, right?
Yeah, in a very famous moment with Gandalf and the trolls in The Hobbit. That
Exactly.
was the original inspiration. There's just tons of spells, and where it's there are a lot of limitations when you are forced to only create content in very specific books, but be able to get that content out a bit quicker. Not without, and the lack of like balancing and paying attention to the mechanics and if this is good, but being able to get out faster than waiting 3 years to publish is like a huge benefit. And this is a massive passion of mine to always be able to get, because I love the old days where you get Dragon Magazine right in the mail, or you go to the comic book shop, a hobby shop, and buy it, and then you had all these monsters that maybe didn't make sense for a big overarching themed book, right? My wife is obsessed with Spider Horse, as I bring up often. It's a weird thing to like, but that's a famous one from Dragon Magazine where they had all types of weird hybrid monsters like owlbears, but with different different types of creatures and stuff like that. And there's a lot of there was a lot of gold there, and so many books in fourth edition and previous editions with really great ideas. And you're going all the way back to like AD&D days too, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. As far as me and the rest of the TTRPG studio is concerned, there is no stone that we are not like willing to unturn to deliver really cool stuff. Because again, there's just so many flavors of D&D that like, next month we have the Ravenloft book coming out. Horror isn't necessarily everyone's vibe, but thanks to drops, we can also be like, hey, here's something that isn't necessarily horror that can kind of fit into your campaign if you want it, right? And so, kind of to that point, right, we don't have to wait 3 years to give you Sticks to Snakes, right? We could just give it to you this month, and then next month we could look at other spells and other stuff from older editions.
It's a very quirky example. What is Sticks to Snakes? For those that don't know at home.
Sticks to Snakes is awesome because it's literally you just if there are a bunch of sticks nearby, you can turn them into venomous snakes, mentally command them to attack your enemies. It's definitely up there in terms of like the most silly, yet still being functional.
This video is brought to you by Tabletop Table. This is one of those things where I was really, really curious about it, and it's really good. I am genuinely, I shouldn't be shocked, but it's actually really, really good. It comes with a portable case, which I really love. It is incredibly sturdy, and it really allows you to have this, professional gaming table-like experience without the cost of like this, these incredibly expensive and cool gaming tables out there. But this turns any table that you own into an awesome gaming table for card games, for tabletop games of all kinds. And now they've got additional things in this Kickstarter, including a tray for your dice to be rolled, additional space for your cards and everything else you need for your character, and even extendable legs. You can actually combine tables. You can take this table literally everywhere. The link to the Tabletop Table Kickstarter is in the video description right now. Click on that link and check it out. And a lot of that content back in the day, I mean, there's so much pop culture themed stuff also that came out of, previous editions. That's fun to see because, I can't even remember right now the movie where, sticks turn to snakes. And I know that trope has been repeated in fantasy TV shows and film to the point where I can't even remember the origin of it, which is super weird. But what are people getting today? Like, how much content is dropping on D&D Beyond this Thursday? It's a lot.
It is a lot, yeah. So we have 125 maps. None of them have been used in 5th edition, meaning these are all completely new to D&D Beyond. 250 reveals, which for folks may not be fully aware, reveals is essentially how in the maps VTT you can sort of show off art that you have access to. And this is all gorgeous art from the books. We have a ton of other things, like we have 5 feats. I haven't really touched on those, but in the context of the new background that we're also giving away called the Pact Seeker, one of the things there is like, I think one of the more common fantasies in D&D is like, I just made a deal with the devil. What does that mean, right? Or my character made a deal with a devil or an archfey or something before the game even started. So essentially Pact Seeker kind of epitomizes that, right? And gives you what we're calling planar pact feats to represent, okay, what does it look like when you sought out an archfey and you made a deal with him or them, and all without not necessarily being a warlock to do so. And so we have 5 feats and then 5 spells, which are a combination of spells that are silly but also super functional spells. There's one called Astral Flood, where you're literally channeling energy from the astral sea, and depending on the type of damage you choose, it has different effects. So there's just a lot of variety that we're giving to folks this month, and that's sort of going to be our MO going forward, because we recognize that you can't necessarily create content that's going to be 100% useful at every single table ever, right? But
Right.
we can give you all of the tools you need to determine, you know what, this encounter may not work for me. That one I could definitely make a plot hook or like a really cool campaign moment.
And when you say reveals, what are reveals?
So that's like essentially what we call images in Maps VTT. So like if you wanted to show off like a handout from a book, right? You would load up the reveals browser in the VTT. You would press it, and you can then show to your players without leaving or like playing this weird game of like, okay, hold on, let me share my screen in whatever way, or let me show you guys my laptop screen to take a look at this really cool picture. It's built into the VTT.
Yeah, it's a searchable image database. So while you're playing, you get to a point and you're like, oh, shoot, I need to find a picture of a goblin. You can search now within the reveals database, find some goblin images, all sourced from official D&D art, and then reveal that to your players.
So we're looking at nearly weekly content, basically coming down for Dungeon Masters and also for players. And is that going to be like every Thursday? Is that kind of the date and the cadence that we're going to see?
Yeah, so every Thursday, we're providing DMs modular content. To start with, we're calling these drop-in encounters, which are exactly what they sound like. You can drop in the encounter and you're good to go. So the ones dropping today for this first week is a bandit ambush, where it's literally, we set up the map for you, we set up the tokens, and then we tell the players, hey, start here, right? Place your tokens there. And then you're done, because you don't need a ton of story around bandits ambushing you, right? So
okay, and then just like drilling down the specifics. So like there are also these encounters that are like almost pre-built for you to just
Exactly.
grab and instantly, because we used to do on D&D Beyond Encounter of the Week, but this is like a more thorough version of that where the map is already loaded with all the tokens, the encounter, everything that you need to just like basically game within a few minutes, which is the dream, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. And then on top of that, you are having weekly drops for potentially player options, potentially more spells, potentially other stuff for the Dungeon Master and players here and there. But is that a little bit more sporadic?
Yeah, so in terms of player options, especially because we're trying to make sure that it's not like super scattershot and that that the team doesn't kill themselves trying to deliver this, those will come on a monthly basis.
Okay.
So the first Thursday of every month, we're going to be giving player options like that, and then kind of more of the overarching DM support. Like next month, we're going to have quite a few monsters that these are net new monsters, never been seen before, that I'm really excited about. But
yeah, so this isn't just like stuff from the archive. This is new stuff that maybe D&D players and Dungeon Masters have never seen before.
Exactly, yes. And in fact, like, even the feats that'll come out today, I promise you, all of it comes from older editions, but the way we've kind of presented them, especially because feats kind of work a little differently in 5th edition, makes it feel and look completely new. So it's not as simple as just, okay, cool, let's take the text from 2nd edition, update it with advantage, disadvantage, and call it a day, right? It is like a true, like, okay, let's reimagine this for the current edition, to play nice, to make sense, and be, of course, put to the same standards that our books are.
Who is all of this content being? Who is going to have access to all this content on D&D Beyond?
So it's going to be subscribers, both Hero Tier and Master Tier, and especially for Hero Tier, getting access to the DM content every week. Because one of the big things that's super important to us is, getting to that point where a player could be like, you know what, I kind of feel like giving my DM a break. I want to run a game for them, right? And then having this just ever-growing library of being like, oh, cool, I can run this, and I can like add these 2 encounters, and I've got myself a session for Friday night, and kind of helping, illuminate that pathway towards being a DM.
And do you have access to this content even if you don't have a subscription afterwards, or how does that work?
So one of our biggest philosophies is, ensuring that we don't break your tools or your like anything you're using. And so while you won't have access to the content like after if you were to unsubscribe, it won't negatively impact your character sheet or like your ongoing game. Essentially, it'll kind of like it'll let you exist there in like a read-only state, but like let's say you unsubscribe and you then remove stick to snakes from your character sheet, you won't be able to re-add it to your character sheet until after you subscribe. But like it doesn't go away just because you unsubscribed.
Yeah, and this is a big change. Like one of the big changes that we're doing alongside drops is previously subscriber benefits were like that month, if you were a subscriber, you got the things that month. And if you weren't a subscriber, then too bad. You missed that month. So this now we believe much more so, especially as we're providing options for players and DMs that as long as you're a subscriber, you need to have access to that content, whether you subscribe today or 2 years from now, it's an on-off switch. And so that is the change of why there's the off switch now, part of it, but there's the on switch now for the entire catalog. So, if you decide to subscribe 2 years from now, you get what we released today. If you stop your subscription, then what Jay said is exactly what happens. When you choose to reactivate your subscription, then you get access to like adding all the new stuff into your character sheets and into your maps experience.
Yeah.
Is there oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to add to Brian's point, when we say you subscribe and you get access to the entire catalog, that means everything going back to 2021, which was when we originally launched the subscriber perks. So, like, a lot of it was cosmetic back then, but, like, essentially now we're getting rid of that sort of limited time exclusivity that we used to have in favor of this sort of more, if I subscribe, I get everything,
Is there an opportunity here because we're talking about this being adaptive, and certainly this is something that I was always excited for the concept of, is be able to play test content in a way or get feedback on the existing content that comes out and be able to adjust it. Because like once a book's out, that's kind of it, and then you have to do an errata, which can feel a little bit clunky. But in this case, if you get feedback on a feat, a player option, an encounter, you can adjust, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it probably won't be the same as if it was UA, right? Because UA is kind of more for the books, and that goes through its own playtesting process. But yeah, absolutely. One of the big things we're doing is sending out a regular survey every month to subscribers to be like, hey, how did this resonate with you? How is this thing? Did this work? Do you think this, may have been too powerful or one way or another? That way, if it turns out like, oh, okay, we released some content last month and like the numbers were like wildly imbalanced, we have the opportunity to like adjust that, right? In a way, so that way people are like, okay, because this isn't in a print product, we have more flexibility to respond and adjust things where needed.
I feel like I was always aware of the challenges with anything like this, because when we say Dragon Magazine, there was something about Dragon Magazine that maybe didn't always feel so official, right? But like there is a playtest process that there is a design team behind these things that you are releasing. Like this is not like a copy and paste type of thing where you're just shoving spells and feats and options out there. Like there is a process to this, trying to make it just as good as the books. Every single 100%. Time. This isn't like, this is digital only, so we don't have to take it as seriously. I know that's sometimes the impression people are going to have just when they see anything that's a little bit more fluid like this, but that is not the case in this.
No. It still goes through the same rigor and balancing and checks that the normal book content goes. And in fact, that in itself was its own challenges, like working with the TTRPG studio to like, how do we make this a little bit more nimble without, breaking your backs, right? And so like, again, like, yeah, this is basically going to be held to the same standards and of balance and inclusivity and everything.
Yeah, And it goes through like internal playtesting. It won't go through UA mostly because we like surprising delighting here. And like Jay said, we can respond more quickly to players, but it is going through full internal playtesting.
There are no books that aren't being made because of this. Like, this is a different team, but it's a team that works with the D&D. I mean, is on the D&D team, but this is specifically for drops as well. So you're still getting as many books as you ever got every year. No one has to be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things too is like we also see drops as being like very supportive of the books in like a, hey, you know, here's some other things of like Ravenloft maybe you didn't think about, right? Or like, you know, here's another flavor of something. But it is by no means taking or stealing anything from the books. From
something that might get published, yeah.
I'll also say this kind of goes back to the philosophy of really why we want to make drops content. I really appreciate the team's intention behind all the content we're thinking about. So from a DM standpoint, like every dungeon master wants the largest utility belt they can possibly get. We just want like as many like both generic and specific options at the same time, which is why it's always so hard to serve a dungeon master because like depends on what's happening in my own session. So, but there's a lot of, like I'd say with this initial drop, we're trying to hit a lot of bases about what DMs most often need. And that's really where the team is also focused on for things for dungeon masters, content for dungeon masters. How can we continue to give you more utility so that you are spending either less time prepping or having more fun prepping because we've given you a leg up while you're prepping. Like that's the really biggest thing. That's the thing we think is kind of most important. All of this is understanding the amount of time and effort DMs are putting into their games. How can we make that better? And then for players, it's kind of on like the polar opposite. Players have utility. As a player progresses in their play of D&D, they really like to get more and more creative. And so that's where we like to have, we can go like very niche and specific into creativity areas, like a book may not want to cover because it's really delivering on a setting or an overall promise versus like a very specific, deal with the devil need.
You only recently became in charge of D&D Beyond. Like, what has that challenge been like? And has there been like an overall design philosophy behind all the changes that we're seeing with D&D Beyond right now?
Going back to basics and our team's values. That's what we've been focusing on. Why was D&D Beyond founded? What is D&D Beyond's goal to deliver to players? Like this, Todd. You were there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So just getting the team back to the things that we've always wanted to focus on. So one of the very first things we did is determine what those values are and get to a more simplified mission, which is our goal is to make it easier for everyone to play together. The together part's really important to us because you just cannot lose sight of the reason why we all play D&D is it's to hang out with friends and family. And everything else is secondary to that. Are you having a fun time hanging out with friends and family? That's what we have to focus on. And so that's where everything else becomes noise. And as you just help the team focus on that, which is, again, like everybody on the team has wanted to focus on that. And so it's been, I feel, challenging and very rewarding because the team feels both unlocked and certain things will suddenly feel like it's going at turbo mode. And then certain other things, because we have to do a game platform rebuild, are just going to go slower than we want it to go. And that's why, we see that as our long-term vision. We're going to deliver it in pieces here and there. What I hope you'll see over the next year is how things start to click together and how, as you're seeing all of the different tools we're bringing online, the way that we're thinking about the player experience, how that mission of making it easier to play together is coming to fruition. So like this drops is actually a really big piece of that because we've been thinking about what are ways to give you a easier, quicker leg up as a dungeon master into building the content you want for your weekly games. And that's why, honestly, something like a subscription service could be very suited to deliver a lot of that utility for a dungeon master. And so that's why drops is a really key piece of the whole equation to us. But a lot of other things are going to come online. And the thing I'm so excited about is the stuff that We have plan that is going to come to drops that is predicated on these tools launching that Jay has amazing ideas on that we can't wait for you over, the months and longer to see those start to come to fruition. And you see how tools and content can really work together to give you a greater experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I'm excited to see how the community reacts to drops. Is good to see. Really happy to see it finally get to beat. Okay, I don't know how to word this. I'm really excited to see drops actually finally happen because this is something that the D&D Beyond team wanted to make happen since pretty much day one of launch.
Yeah,
and it's nice after all these years to get there.
I mean, as evident by your own excitement. This is a multi-year passion project where people before us have left have left their passion in this, right? And we're just sort of carrying the torch forward with it. Because this is something we've always really wanted to do, and especially being able to help players and DMs kind of get into the game quicker with more varied options and stuff is cornerstone to what we how we think we can move forward with DDB.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.